City of Cordova's Mile 17 landfill equipment mug-up. The purchase of the landfill equipment will be on the March 2nd ballot as Proposition 1. And so we're holding this meeting to explain to you the need for the equipment, how we would finance it, and what the new equipment would look like. So we have this time frame allotted, and we'd like to stay focused on this topic, but Aaron and I are more than willing to stay afterwards to talk about any other refuse questions you might have. And so with me tonight is Aaron Muma, the refuse superintendent, and I'm Samantha Greenwood, the public works director. Before I hand it off to Aaron, I just want to quickly give you a little bit of a summary of what equipment is used for at the landfill and what the landfill looks like in general. So we recently filled the first cell, and it took us 21 years to fill up that cell. We're moving into the second cell, and the refuse equipment is used to clear the land and excavate. We can excavate 10 feet down, and we use that excavated material for daily cover. The landfill also has a scrap metal pile, and we use equipment to place the scrap metal, to unload it, to squish it, and to organize it. We also have a C&D pile, which is all inert, and it can be fence posts and chain link fence and gill net and all kinds of things, which is a very, very difficult environment for the equipment to be working with. So Aaron's going to talk a little bit about the current equipment, the cost of maintenance, and then what we would like to purchase.
Okay, so currently at the landfill, we have two pieces of equipment. We have a 1988 cat loader, which the hour meter reads 9,500 hours and hasn't been working for quite some time. So the number is actually much higher than that. We also have a 2002 Hitachi excavator with just over 6,500 hours. Both pieces of equipment were used when they came to the refuse department. This is a typical day at the landfill. Both pieces of equipment here are working in the construction and demolition pile. As Sam mentioned, there's a little bit of everything in there: tires, web, mattresses, chain link fence, all kinds of stuff that can get wrapped up in tracks, axles, around tires. Also, the cover material we use, you can see the rocks in the foreground of the picture on the right. That's also very hard on the tracks in the excavator. Okay, the loader has a underpowered engine to start with. It's only a 4-cylinder engine. Most loaders that would perform these types of jobs would be at least a 6-cylinder engine. The engine has also been rebuilt once and is due for another rebuild. Is also the original transmission, and that is also probably due for a rebuild. The loader has foam-filled tires on it. The tires are very big and heavy, but they are also necessary. Without those tires, we would just be constantly fixing flats, and it's just a constant thing with the conditions that it works in. So if you combine the heavy tires, the underpowered engine, and then if you load up the bucket with cover material, like in the picture, that incline there is about as steep of a hill as that loader will climb. The excavator, it does a lot of traveling for an excavator. Most excavators go to a job site and they might move this way, that way a little bit. Our excavator, we park it in the shop every night, and it could travel, a quarter of a mile to where it needs to work on the other side of the landfill property, and then a quarter of a mile back at the end of the day. That is a lot of traveling for an excavator. So the tracks and rollers are very worn. They've already been replaced once at a cost of around $60,000 total rebuild. And they're getting to where they're about due again for that. Pins and bushings on the bucket and the boom are also sloppy and worn. And it's just going to be, costs like that are only going to get worse from here on out. safety issues with both pieces of equipment. The rollover protection system on both machines are rusted, cracked, and they cannot be welded per OSHA regulations. They would have to be replaced as a whole unit at a very high cost and time consuming job. Also on the loader, the operator cab mounts, there's 4 pins that hold the cab on. 1 pin was missing this summer. We cannot buy new ones. They had to be manufactured in town. So we have 1 new pin. The other 3 need to be replaced in the near future. The excavator had an electrical fire in 2013, and ever since then, it just hasn't been the same. The main electrical panel is malfunctioning. There's no wipers, no lights. The travel speed sensor doesn't work, and that panel needs to be replaced as a unit at a cost of $4,000 sourced directly from Japan. Also, these pieces of equipment, they're not, they're old, they're not ergonomically designed, they're hard on operators. It's a very rough ride, and that's a big deal when you run them for 8 hours a day. This table breaks down the maintenance costs that we've spent over the last 6 years. The top number, the labor number, I want to emphasize that is a very rough number. We don't track hours spent repairing each piece of equipment. So that $45,000, that is probably on the low end. And then as we move down, the parts costs break down by year. And then a total of $197,000 over the last 6 years. That's 2/3 of a way to a new piece of equipment. So the new loader that we're looking to purchase comes with a landfill protection package, which will protect, has front and rear belly guards, transmission guards, axle guards. It also has solid rubber tires. The difference with the old loader, this loader is designed for these heavy tires. It's geared differently. It has better suspension, so it will allow for a smoother ride and will be easier on the equipment in the long term. We use this loader for hauling, spreading daily cover. It also will be able to work on the cell slopes. Our current loader cannot perform these jobs. It just doesn't have the power. This loader will be able to go anywhere we need it to go. And also snow removal. This is the reason that we qualify for clean water loan. The loader will be able to remove all the snow from the top sides of the cells, and we remove that snow. It reduces runoff and leachate that can impact groundwater. Alaska DEC takes groundwater at landfills very seriously. We monitor twice a year at a cost of $50,000 per year. And removing snow is just a way for us to be proactive about protecting the environment. The dozer would be a new addition to our fleet, and it will be a big help in what we do on a daily basis. It also comes with the protection package, protecting all the vulnerable points, hydraulic rams, tracks, operator cab. The main job of this piece of equipment would be compacting and covering waste, which currently we do with the excavator most of the time. So the dozer would be just much more efficient and better at performing this job, and it will save so much life on the excavator taking over these duties. It'll also be better at grading, shaping slopes, and for clearing land as we expand and prepare for future cells. The excavator does not have the same protection package as the other 2 pieces of equipment. It only has the operator cab protection, which is basically a cage around the cab, but it won't need the same protection. The loader and dozer will take over most of the daily work at the landfill, handling all the waste. The excavator will then be able to perform mainly earthwork. The only job where the excavator may be handling waste is working in the asbestos cell, where precise placement and gentle handling of material is necessary. And having the dozer would just be a huge help. It will cut down on travel time of the excavator and just overall hours in general, making this equipment last much longer. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sam and she can talk about the financing options and loan.
Okay, we spent some time investigating multiple financing options that are out there. We narrowed it down to these three, and by far the clean water loan is the best deal out there. An interest rate of 1.5% is great, but the best part about it is that there is a subsidy for $500,000, which means that we do not have to pay back $500,000. It's much like getting one piece of equipment for free. This slide has been altered since the first PowerPoint was posted due to some great feedback from the public, and we're going to focus a little bit more on the repayment amount. So the great thing about the Clean Water Loan Fund is that we get the subsidy. So we have to take out a $1.2 million loan, but we get a subsidy of $500,000, which means we're actually paying back $710,000. And our annual payment is about $45,000 over a 20-year period. There are some parameters that we have to fulfill in order to get that subsidy. We have to accept and spend the entire loan of $1.21 million. Currently, we have our equipment spec'd out at about $1.1 million. The remaining amount will be used to build a lean-to at the existing building at mile 17 to protect the equipment and purchase additional implements for the equipment. Currently, the city is paying 73% of the loan payment in maintenance costs. Over 6 years, the average annual maintenance cost was $33,000. Some years, it was as high as $60,000. So we feel that the payment of $45,000 is well within our budget. So there are three things that are driving this purchase of landfill equipment. So in summary, it's the cost. It's not only the cost of maintaining the equipment, but it's also the cost savings that we could get with the clean water loan. Just the ability to get $500,000 of free money is great. Also, it's safety, and the landfill equipment protective packages not only protect the equipment, but they protect our operators. Things coming up through the floor of the equipment aren't going to happen with those kind of packages on, which we don't have now. And just the upgrades in technology of hydraulics and chairs and all those kinds of things will make it much easier for the operators. And then just helping to protect our environment, trying to be proactive by removing the snow, getting it off the pile, the cell, and trying to help in any way we can. So on March 2nd, your ballot is going to look like this. The landfill equipment purchase is Proposition 1, the top one. And just, there's a little bit of legalese in there, but it's pretty intuitive. If you want the city to move forward with the loan and purchase the equipment, you vote yes. If you do not want the city to move forward with the loan and purchase the equipment, you vote no. So with that, if there's any questions, we would be happy to answer them.